Hey, welcome to another episode of GeekOutdoors.com. Now that the excitement and dust has settled from the recent MacBook Pro announcements, I want to talk about some things that I really think that is really annoying about the direction that Apple is heading, and that it's something that is not really new for people who does pay attention to tech, but for people who primarily use their products, the mass consumers. I think that is something that is really I would say definitely a disservice to the people who are actually purchasing it. Now, before I go forward, if you are the type of person who really does love Apple products, then this is probably not the video for you. And so let's go ahead and get into this. Now, before I begin, I do want to say there are three things that I really, really do like about Apple, okay? The first is their designs. Okay, now say what you will about them not changing their designs very much, especially on their iPhones. However, their design language is classic, and at the same time, it is familiar from anybody who looks at the device. They will know that that is an Apple product, which goes back to the fact that they have some really, really wonderful design teams to create that. Okay, now secondly, to go on with their design is the fact that their build quality. I really still feel like, for the most part, Apple products, especially their iPhones and their laptops, they are some of the best built systems, hardware out there. So I gotta give them credit there. And then the final thing that I really like and actually love about Apple is their marketing. I mean, they have the best marketing in the world, and it can be argued because of their marketing, they have the most valuable brand of any particular company. Okay. Now, with all of that being said, Apple is not the company that was started off with, and it is not the company that I think the majority of people in the tech industry remember them being. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that they're not successful. If anything, they're more successful than any tech company in the whole world, in my opinion. So, but they've changed who they are. You know, before, Apple was really about pushing the envelope. They were really about innovation. But nowadays, they're more about the mass consumers, and now, even more than that, they are about something that I really, really don't like, and that's dongles. This is a company that's basically, to me, become a dongle disaster, okay? So one of the things that the MacBook Pro they introduced, obviously, was their new touch bar features. But one of the things that they also did was introduce the fact that they are taking away ports, okay? Ports that are still used by a lot of devices. The first being the case is USB ports. There's not a single USB 2 or USB 3 ports on here. There is a Thunderbolt port, which is also a USB Type-C port, which is nice. However, you don't have USB ports, which is still used by more than 95%, actually more than that, probably 99% of all devices in the world that are computers or other devices. They usually have a USB port. Okay, that's first and foremost. And the other thing is the fact that they do not have an HDMI out port. Okay, I do not know why they don't have that. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense, especially if you are getting a Pro line where more than likely this would be your machine for productivity. So it would make sense that you would have an easy way to connect this to your more higher quality screens. You know, so that is another thing. So just those two things alone, it is definitely just doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense from a profitability point of view, but from a user standpoint, I really, really think it's just really just ripping them off. Okay, and you know, one thing that we all know is that Apple is the type of company who really does pride themselves on providing you a high quality experience, at least from their perspective. However, I would argue that Apple, to me, they are the worst value in the business when it comes to technology. There's not a single company that's going to charge you so much more for so much less. I mean, if you want to talk about hardware specs, a lot of the hardware specs on these machines are from processors that are actually from 2015, you know, and they have an integrated graphics card, which is nice, but it's not going to be up to snuff to other comparable Windows machines that actually have a really dedicated GPU, like an NVIDIA GPU, and for at the same price, and usually it's going to give you a lot more value for your money. And also other features such as not having a touch screen. That still does not make sense to me in terms of technology wise. And so worst value for the money, hands down. And I'm going to go back to the whole adapter thing. Okay, so as you can see from the prices here, just for the 13-inch model starts at $1,300. And if you're looking for the 15-inch with the touch bar, I think that starts at about maybe almost 2,000. Let's go down here. Yeah, $2,000. And then if you're living in other countries like Europe or other, Asian countries, it's going to cost you considerably more. Even in Canada, you have the quote-unquote Apple tax, and I understand that there are fees and stuff for export and imports, but no technology companies charges more for their products than Apple. Okay, so going with the whole theme of value, this is where the whole dongle disaster comes in. I mean, we know why Apple is doing this, okay? I understand technology. They want to force companies or their partners to actually move forward with other technologies. They've done that before by removing their optical drives. They've done it recently with the iPhones with no headphone jacks. But the thing is, they are forcing adoption at their pace, their own pace, and not the entire industry. So what that means is, if you look at their accessories, and they actually did a price cut on this adapters because there were so many people who were not satisfied with it or not happy with what Apple did. But look at this. This is on sale. These are $30 adapters, okay? And this is just so that you can use your existing USB ports on there. So these accessories are not cheap. You're looking at $80, $70. Look at all these adapters. And also, let's remember, these Pro lines do not have an SD card whatsoever. Okay, now if you are a normal mass consumer user, I guess that wouldn't matter. But this is the Pro line. A lot of Pro lines, they are content creators, they are designers, and a lot of them have really expensive camera equipment that they want to easily transport their pictures, videos over to their Pro laptops, and then you're going to have to get an adapter for that. And even, I talked about a little bit earlier, not having an HDMI output. Look at this adapter. It's a $50 adapter. So it is just, it's just ludicrous to me. So by the time you buy all these adapters and accessories just to use the existing hardware that you have, you're not going to have that elegant unified design. You're going to have a dongle monster, and it doesn't really make the experience better. I always used to pride Apple for providing a very simplified, unified experience. However, nowadays, when I look at all these Apple devices, it is just a Frankenstein of a monster. And if anything, there's just so many limits to it. It just takes away from the overall user experience. As much as people who love Apple want to protect them for everything that they do, you cannot, it's hard for me to hear any justification that this is the best way to go. And at the same time, it's giving their consumers the best overall experience. So that is my rant today on this Apple dongle disaster. I just really hope that Apple sees its ways and just try to go back to innovating while still, just really appealing to their demographic, which you could still appeal to mass consumers without ripping them off, and this is the case where I really think that hardware-wise, I think Microsoft and their partners, they are doing it right, in my opinion, where you're still offering a lot of features that are not only compatible with the majority of what people are using, but that at the same time, they are also introducing new features, such as touch screens on their laptops, such as laptops that are also tablets, that really, really make sense. And so that is my rant today on this whole Apple dongle disaster. And I understand that Apple, whenever they do something, the industry follows. And I really, really hope that the majority of the industry does not follow this trend, because it is not innovative in any way. And if anything, it just really, really hurts the consumers, and it also hurts innovation. So if you had any thoughts on this Apple dongle disaster, be sure to leave them in the comments and ideas below. And if you found value and you like these videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget, I am on Snapchat at Geek Outdoors. Thanks for checking out this episode. And as always, if you like these videos, be sure to click on the subscribe button. And for full written content, audio content, and additional geek stuff, head over to geekoutdoors.com. And I'll see you outdoors on the very next episode.